The history of Japan is a grand story spanning thousands of years. In this video, we will look back at the history of Japan from the Jomon period to the 2025 era and explain in detail the characteristics and important events of each period. Together, we will trace the flow of how Japanese culture and society were formed and how they have changed over the years to the present day. Chapter 1: Ancient Japan 794. Jomon period c. 14,000 BC-c. 300 BC. People began to settle in the Japanese archipelago as far back as the Jomon period, about 14,000 years ago. During this period, hunting and gathering were the main means of subsistence, and the unique Jomon pottery culture flourished. Jomon earthenware, so named because of its distinctive rope pattern, is considered one of the oldest earthenware in the world. The Jomon people coexisted with nature and built a rich spiritual culture while using earthenware and stoneware. Reiwa period circa 300 BC to 300 AD. Around 300 BC, immigrants from the Korean peninsula and mainland China increased and rice agriculture spread throughout the Japanese archipelago. This period is called the Reiwa period and is characterized by the use of Reiwa earthenware and metalware, which differed from the Jomon period. During the Reiwa period, the development of agriculture stabilized society, and gradually large settlements and chiefdoms were formed. Toward the end of the Reiwa period, signs of the formation of nations, including the Yamatakoku, began to appear. Kofun period circa 300538. The Kofun period, as the name implies, was a time when huge burial mounds were built all over the country. During this period, the Yamato regime was unifying the country and expanding its power throughout the Japanese archipelago. Inside the tombs, Haniwa clay figurines, mirrors, swords, and other objects are housed as burial accessories, symbolizing the wealth and authority of the powerful people of the time. Through exchanges with China, the Yamato regime introduced advanced culture and technology, laying the foundation for the Asuka period. Asuka period 538710. The Asuka period was a time when Buddhism was introduced to Japan and accepted as the state religion. The introduction of Buddhism greatly influenced Japanese culture, art, and politics. Prince Shotoku promoted the spread of Buddhism and laid the foundation of the nation by establishing the 17-article constitution. During this period, Japanese envoys to Sui Dynasty China and Tang Dynasty China were also dispatched, introducing advanced Chinese culture to Japan. Nara period 710794. The Nara period saw the construction of Japan's first capital, Heijokyo, in Nara. Heijokyo was a magnificent capital modeled after the Tang Dynasty in China, and Japanese culture flourished greatly during the Nara period. Buddhism further developed during this period, and huge temples such as Todaiji and Kofukuji were constructed. In addition, important documents such as the Manyoshu Anthology of Myriad Leaves, Kajiki Record of Ancient Matters, and Nihon Shoki Chronicles of Japan were compiled, laying the foundation for the transmission of Japanese history and culture to future generations. Chapter 2: Japan in the Middle Ages 794-1603. Heian period 794-1185. The Heian period began when Emperor Kamu moved the capital to Kyoto and built the Heian-kyo capital. During this period, aristocratic culture flourished and literary works such as the Tale of Genji and the Pillow Book were created. In the latter half of the Heian period, samurai warriors emerged and gradually came to hold real political power. While the Fujiwara clan ruled as regents and aristocratic society flourished, the samurai became more powerful in the provinces. Kamakura period 1185 to 1333. The Kamakura period began with the opening of the Kamakura shogunate by Minamoto no Yoritomo. The samurai government was established and rule by the samurai began in earnest. During the Kamakura period, the spirit of Bushido was formed and Zen Buddhism spread. In addition, the Mongolian Empire attacked Japan twice, known as the Genko, which strengthened Japan's defensive capabilities and strengthened its unity as a nation. During this period, the Kamakura shogunate functioned as a governing body for the samurai, and a political system independent of the imperial court was gradually developed. Nanboku-cho period 1333 to 1392. The Nanboku-cho period 1333 to 1392 was a period when the Kamakura shogunate fell and Emperor Go-Daigo attempted to establish a new government. However, Ashikaga Takauji rebelled and installed a new emperor in Kyoto, causing the imperial court to split into north and south. During this period, the southern and northern dynasties each asserted their legitimacy, and fierce warfare continued throughout the country. The conflict between the northern and southern dynasties was later ended by Ashikaga Yoshimitsu, and continued into the Muromachi period. Muromachi period 1392 to 1573. The Muromachi period 1392 to 1573 was a period when the Ashikaga clan established the shogunate in Kyoto and ruled over the whole country. During this period, a gorgeous culture blossomed in and around Kyoto. In particular, no plays, tea ceremonies, and garden arts developed, laying the foundation for traditional Japanese culture. In the latter half of the Muromachi period, however, the power of the shogunate weakened and local feudal lords began to stand on their own. This movement led to the advent of the Sengoku period. Sengoku period 1467 to 1590. The Sengoku period was a time when all of Japan was occupied with battles between feudal lords. During this period, the whole country was engulfed in warfare as feudal lords fought one battle after another in an attempt to expand their power in various regions. Toward the end of the Sengoku period, Nobunaga Oda appeared on the scene, defeating one feudal lord after another in an attempt to unify the country. However, Nobunaga committed suicide in the Hanoji incident, and Toyotomi Hideyoshi subsequently unified the country. The Sengoku period is one of the most popular periods in Japanese history because of the bravery and wits of the warlords. Azuki Momoyama period 1573 to 1603. The Azuki Momoyama period refers to the era of Nobunaga Oda and Hideyoshi Toyotomi. This period marked the end of the Warring States period and the unification of the whole country. Nobunaga and Hideyoshi achieved nationwide unification and established a powerful central government in Japan. Also during this period, trade with the southern barbarians flourished, and Western culture and technology flowed into Japan. In particular, the missionary spread of Christianity and the introduction of guns had a great impact. The Azuki Momoyama period is a very important period in Japanese history, characterized by its flamboyant culture and magnificent castle architecture. Chapter 3: Japan in the Early Modern Period 1603 to 1868. The Edo period 1603 to 1868. The Edo period 1603 to 1868 began with the establishment of the Edo shogunate by Ieyasu Tokugawa. This was a period of peace that lasted for about 260 years, during which all of Japan prospered under stable rule. During the Edo period, the feudal system was established and the status system of samurai, farmers, artisans, and merchants was strictly maintained. Although the national seclusion policy restricted foreign exchange, culture flourished in Japan. In particular, ukiyo woodblock prints, kabuki, and other forms of popular culture developed, and the Edo merchant culture flourished. Education also spread, with common people learning to read and write at Terakoya and other schools. The stable society of the Edo period laid the foundation for the development of modern Japan. Chapter 4: Modern Japan 1868 to 1945. Meiji era 1868 to 1912. The Meiji era was a period in which the Edo shogunate was overthrown and the Meiji government was established. During this period, Japan rapidly modernized and adopted Western technology and institutions. With the Meiji Restoration, the feudal system was abolished and a centralized state was formed. In addition, the policy of rich country, strong army was adopted to strengthen military power and develop industry. During the Meiji period, Japan underwent major reforms in all aspects of society with the aim of building a modern nation to compete with the Western powers. Victories in the Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War also enhanced Japan's international standing. Taisho era 1912 to 1926. The Taisho era was a relatively short period of time, but one in which Japan underwent major changes. During this period, the democratic movement known as Taisho democracy flourished and had a major impact on politics and society. In addition, World War I broke out and Japan experienced economic growth due to the war economy. The Taisho era 1912 to 1926 was a period of new culture and ideas as liberalism and democracy spread and Japanese society became more diverse. Showa era pre-war and mid-war 1926 to 1945. The early Showa period was a time of economic depression and political turmoil. During this period, Japan became more militaristic and gradually pursued foreign aggression. A series of wars such as the Manchurian Incident, the Sino-Japanese War, and the Pacific War took place one after another, and Japan waged war throughout Asia. The wars impoverished the lives of the people and resulted in many sacrifices. The mid-war period of the Showa era was the most difficult time for Japan, and with the end of the wars came the turning point to a new era. Chapter 5: Modern Japan 1945 present. Showa era post-war 1945 to 1989. The latter half of the Showa era was a period of post-war reconstruction and economic growth. After the defeat in World War II, Japan was occupied by the US and post-war reconstruction was underway. The Constitution of Japan was enacted, agrarian reform and educational reform took place, and a democratic society was formed. From the 1950s to the 1960s, the economy grew rapidly, and the so-called period of rapid economic growth was underway. During this period, Japan became the world's second-largest economy and established its international position. It was also a period in which Japan played an important role in the international community, including the 1964 Tokyo Olympics and the 1970 Osaka World Exposition. Heisei era 1989 to 2019. The Heisei era is characterized by the collapse of the bubble economy and subsequent economic stagnation. The bubble economy burst in the early 1990s, plunging Japan into a prolonged recession. During this period, Japan faced economic challenges and society as a whole underwent major changes. In addition, a series of natural disasters such as the Great Hanshin-Awaji earthquake and the Great East Japan earthquake had a profound impact on Japanese society. At the same time, however, the Heisei era was also a period of development of information technology and internationalization, and a time when a new form of society was sought. The 2025 era 2019 present. The 2025 era symbolizes the beginning of a new era while continuing the challenges of the Heisei era. In this era, Japan faces contemporary challenges such as low birth rates, an aging population, declining population, and climate change. In addition, a pandemic of a new type of coronavirus had a major impact on society and the economy. The 2022 era is an era in which we must ask ourselves what kind of society we should build for the future, while taking into account our past history. Japanese history has developed through various eras from ancient times to the present day. In each period, there have been changes in culture and society, and the accumulation of these changes has shaped the Japan of today. Going forward, we must continue to draw on the lessons of history as we usher in a new era.